Welcome to another episode of Lyle and Screw Guy. And today we have Ben Fitzpatrick with us today to chat with
Hey
us.
guys,
Hey, how you doing? Let's see
I'm
if you're
okay.
coming.
You?
You're doing pretty good now. I'm going to unmute this other computer here for a second so we can hear and make sure we're getting sound.
All right.
Welcome to another episode of Lyle and Screw Guy. And today we have Ben Fitzpatrick with us today to chat with
Hey
us.
guys,
Hey, how you doing? Let's see
I'm
if you're
okay.
coming.
You?
Sounds like we're coming through all right.
All
So
right.
you might be able to be a little louder, but I'd probably have to adjust the gain on your feed.
All right.
So while I do that, I'll have you answer first question that I have for you, which is
All
can you
right.
point to one event or person in your life that can help us to understand what motivates Ben Fitzpatrick? Fitzpatrick, and if so, what and or who is it?
Well, if there was ever one person to motivate me of anything, that would have to be my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has been a big inspirational, motivating person ever since I was born, and Um, he's always been there for me, always been around, when I needed him, everything like that. So I think that, if I had to pick anybody, it would be him.
Mm.
And, he got me interested in my computer career and degree and everything. And, he's got me interested in the music I like. He's always been a very inspirational, motivational person. And he's he's like the best friend I have in the world. He's always there, when I want him or need him. He's always been, the guy that I look up to the most, and just,
Mm-hmm.
he's he's the best guy I know in my life. And I always go to him whenever I need something or want something, or he's just a very lovable man, and I don't regret ever being around him or him me. So yeah,
Sounds
goes to my
cool.
dad.
Sure, sounds cool. I like
Yeah.
my dad
And
too.
yeah, he was even on the Linux Saloon show one time, and
Or was he?
yeah, and
It seems like I have a memory
he
of
was there
that.
when we were talking about Storm OS, and I was uh I was very honored to have him on the show, and hopefully he does it again at some time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Just to let people know, I tried to get the transparency on the background here to work. It
Yeah.
didn't work. So also I have a chat box, but I didn't have it on this computer. So
Yeah.
and I didn't realize that till the last few seconds. So I don't have a chat box on the empty spot over there on the right side. So yeah, so it is what it is. But we'll have a good
Right.
interview anyway.
Right.
So
So moving on.
all right. So tell me a bit about your history with computers and Linux.
Well, my computing history started when I was probably in middle school. Or maybe elementary even. I was, I had an really old Lenovo laptop at the time. Couldn't really do what I wanted to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that wasn't a very good laptop. All I really used it for was running Roller Coaster Tycoon at the time. Couldn't really game on it, which drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to my dad about it, and we got me a Dell Inspiron AMD machine. And hence my adventures with reinstalling Windows uh, that were kind of frustrating in the long run. It was came with Windows Vista of all things, and that drove me absolutely bonkers. Couldn't
Yeah.
really couldn't really do much with it. So I then started looking online for alternatives, and Windows XP was kind of my uncle, who is horribly no longer with us this day. He
Mm.
taught me how to reinstall it a couple of times, and
Mm-hmm.
I got better at it as I went along. It was getting old after a while,
Mm-hmm.
and hence that laptop took a sudden death, and hence I had to get a whole nother laptop. So after a couple of laptops, I said, okay, this is starting to get ridiculous. So I hence tried my hand at Linux.
Mm-hmm.
And, the first distro I tried was Ubuntu, or it was JU Linux, the first one I tried, courtesy of
Mm-hmm.
my buddy Justin.
J Linux,
JU Linux.
JU
And that
Linux.
was based on Ubuntu, which I later discovered. And I grew to like it. And it was, I didn't know anything about Linux at the time. I didn't know what the heck it was, anything that, really about it. And I discovered that, it was a very interesting system and grew a fast love for it. And, how it was free and you could do anything really that you wanted to with it. And it
Mm-hmm.
was encouraged to distribute it and share it and that sort of thing and make it the way you want it.
Right.
And I didn't realize at the time you couldn't do that with Windows or Mac OS or,
Mm.
anything like that.
Right.
So my fascination for operating systems and tinkering with them and etc. came around, and I then after the GNOME 2 days went away, um, at least in the Ubuntu land, I stumbled upon Gentoo. And,
Yeah.
my distro hopping craze kind of came into play as it does with everybody.
Uh-huh.
And, just getting came across several different distros like Manjaro and the Archland and the Gentoo land and just all kinds of different various flavors.
Right.
And after that, I then discovered KD and the 4.x days and all the different desktop environments and, you know, uh, got to know the different YouTubers like Matthew Moore and Fishman and and Seeker and the various friends that I've made throughout the years. And, just got different kinds of experience watching different videos and just all the
Mm-hmm.
different people that I've got to know over the years, and Carmine from Total West Today, Steve from Steve's Very Own, and DT, and just all the many people that we know today, and you, and just all the kind of different people that we know in the community, and all the people that we know, and I've I've even started my own little channel, and we've that's how I got into Linux and different
Yeah.
computer aspects, and just you know don't have any regrets about it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So what drives you to, or what drives you to, how did you get involved with creating distros for Linux?
Well, that started again with Manjaro. Um, I was in the midst at the time of I was hanging out in Spatry's Cup of Linux Mumble channel, and Matt came along, and we were working on his Manjaro by MM distribution, and he was having some problems maintaining it by himself. We were trying to, he was at a standstill because Manjaro was giving him a lot of problems. They had changed their hardware stack, or Linux had changed its hardware stack at the time, and Manjaro adapted to that, and his hardware stopped working. And they also had changed from Manjaro ISO to Manjaro tools at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And without getting too complex into that, his hardware stopped working, like I said, and he needed someone who knew how to build Manjaro the new way versus the old way, because he only knew the old way.
Yeah.
So he recruited me because I had figured out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And hence we began building distros together. And so we decided to partner up, and then we decided that I would be his co-maintainer in future projects, and we decided that I would help him, and that continued on for a good while. We had a 2.0, a 3.0, and after the 3.0, Manjaro changed their grub configurations. They are now using GF. They were originally using GFX boot with grub, and they went to their own grub configurations, and that made it harder and harder to maintain his distro. So
Mm-hmm.
we decided to then move to Arch, and we originally going to call it Arch by MM, but we had an alpha for a while, and that name we found out was going to be trademarked by Arch because we couldn't use their official name in his system because of
Right.
copyright, and that would have been, stealing their trademark and the whole shebang. So we just said,
Get
okay,
confusing.
we're going to rename this thing to Hackman Linux because I put a lot of work into the original install script that we forked from Midfinger and Carl Duff and all these other people, and we combined it all into one. And I did a lot of the scripting work, the whole etc. So all he did was Steam XFCE, and that's about it. So we called it Hackman Linux, and we had a lot of reviews and positive feedback and that sort of thing. And so we decided to leave it running for a while. We had 2 releases, and then so after that he sort of stepped away, and I kept the distro going unknown to him, and it became what we know today as Storm OS. And so that's pretty much my history on, what I know as distro building. And what
Mm-hmm.
motivated me to do that was, a lot of people needed help with distro building, and I sort of took it upon myself to start doing that. So,
That's
long
cool.
story short, because I know I kind of rambled there, um, I helped out Matt Spatry a couple times with Manjaro, and doing my own thing as of now. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Which leads me to the
And
next
to
question.
this day, it's just me, my buddy Ricky from Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88, and Seeker still building Storm OS. And, you know, we still maintain the KDE, the XFCE. We might go into other flavors. We don't know yet, but
Yeah,
it all depends on the amount of time that I have to maintain more than one ISO. So
yeah, that's true.
I
So,
mean, that's kind of why, to answer another one of your questions, I might stick to just one code base with Arch and just, not try and throw too much into the rabbit hole, because I don't want
yeah.
to, force myself to go crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's one thing I wondered about. How many distros, or what drives you to start and maintain so many distros? Most devs
Well,
only do one at a time.
yeah. The reality of it is, Rick, that, you know, I'm the guy who's doing the ISOs, and I just have 2 good friends helping me. And Seeker is the one who makes all the scripts. I'm just the one who builds the ISOs and themes them and that sort of thing. And our good buddy Razor does a lot of the icons and he does a lot of the artwork and that sort of thing for us, and when he
Mm-hmm.
has time and that. And that's kind of why we've kept the same theme base and that sort of thing, because kudos to Ray for doing all the artwork and that. He's a great friend, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of good friends who supported us through the years, and Silent Robot has also done a lot of some of the scripting, and you know I give credit to all the guys usually who help us. and I value their help, because I mean, a one man band is hard to be, and I don't
Right.
want to be a one man band because I couldn't keep this going if I was, because
Right.
I mean, to build these systems, you got to have a team, you can't just, you can't build all this stuff for yourself, that's not my
Yeah.
goal, you know.
Right.
So, and I mean, but to keep on point, um, it's very hard, to build a distro by yourself, and that's kind of why I haven't branched out into other venues of basis because I don't have the kind of mentality or the kind of et cetera to really build something based off of Ubuntu or Gentoo or something like that because I just that's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and building Arch alone is a lot of work. And
Hmm.
I don't want to see, myself building a whole other code base because that's just no. I mean, it's I think a lot of people they forget, how much work goes into one of these things, whether it's
Yeah.
built from, Linux from scratch or something else. You know, Linux from scratch alone is a manual that, when people say it's easy, yes, it's easy to copy and paste, but
Takes a lot of
think about the
time.
time somebody put into writing that whole darn book.
Yeah.
I'm sheesh. I just I can't fathom, what Ubuntu goes through and Arch goes through building alone from that thing. It's just
Yeah. It's
I
always amazed me all the people that volunteer all their time for this stuff.
no, I
They
know.
have
Same
regular
with me,
jobs
you
too.
know. I mean, building a Linux ISO is no walk in the park, trust me.
Yeah.
I've done it and I cringe at some of the people who build stuff from LFS, like think about Chaos and all these other guys who build LFS based systems.
Right.
I can't imagine the work that they're going through, all the blood, sweat, and tears that they must endure. Being facetious there about, you know, I can't imagine the lives that they lead.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I get nervous, thinking about having to do that for myself. I just building something from LFS. Just I don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't have any plans to build anything other than Arch going forward.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, let's see. Uh,
Yeah.
how many distros do you have been involved with to date, and what are they? I know you've
Well,
done Gecko, and I know
um,
you've done
I've
Spiral
done
and,
Storm OS. I've
Storm.
done Matthew Moore's thing. There are a couple of them, so that's two counting that. Then Spatri's Manjaro, so that's three, and then Storm OS, formerly Hackman, so that's about four. I want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some side projects back in the day. So I had a couple of side projects like, stuff that was off the cuff that didn't really stick, but I'm not counting those because,
Hmm.
those were sort of fly by night distros that didn't really stay around
Not too
very
much.
long.
Yeah, right.
So
So, what's
yeah,
your
I'm not going to
relationship
count
with?
those, but yeah, I've had some involvement in the community.
Yeah. So, what's your relationship with Gecko and Spiral?
From who?
Gecko Linux and Spiral Linux.
Uh, Gecko Linux. I I don't really hold any ill will against Gecko. I mean, the developer and that he's cool. I don't mind. I don't mind talking to him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have yet to try out his flavor of Linux, but he's pretty cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what I got down in show notes isn't totally accurate then.
Sorry.
I thought you were the dev for one of the main devs
No,
for
no, no.
Gecko.
I don't mess with that.
Okay.
No, I don't.
My
I don't
bad.
develop for Gecko. No.
Okay, my bad. So I'll take
No,
that
you're
out of show
fine.
notes.
You're thinking of somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So
someone else. I don't
okay.
develop for Gecko. No,
Yeah, I thought you did Gecko, Spiral, and Storm.
no,
You're
no,
in three
no.
distros at the
I
same
only do
time.
Storm. That's it.
Okay, that's good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So what's the hole that you feel that StormOS is filling?
Well, in my opinion, and I
Mm-hmm.
think Seeker shares this same view. Um, there are a lot of good Arch distros out there, but
Mm-hmm.
some of them, for example, Garuda and Endeavor, they do a good job, but in my opinion, it is not to make them look bad or to bash on them or anything. But to be bluntly honest, I think StormOS feels a better niche, a better whole, a better all around feel that, you know, they just they just don't have that. I think that StormOS does it better.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's good you feel that way because you were the dev of the distro, so you have to feel that way pretty much.
Yeah, I think that, there are I think that, they do things in a way that I don't necessarily agree with, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of good things in there, but it's just that I think that some ways they just put some stuff in there that is not really required for users of everyday Linux. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they do a lot of, like I said, a lot of good third party tools, but if a newbie was to download it, for example, they would be lost, they would be confused, they would be like, what in the world am I looking at? And I think when I look at those distros and reviews of them, I'm like, why do they got all this bloat? I mean, not to put them down or anything, but when I look at these distros, I'm like, what the bleep is all this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so that's why I created StormOS, to sort of give them a starting point, to give them something that's clean
Right. And
and
you saw what they wanted.
something that is fresh and not full of unnecessary stuff, something
Mm-hmm.
that is not full of extras that they don't know what the heck to do with and all
Yeah.
that. So I was I gave them something that, I felt that yeah.
Yeah. So
So I decided that,
you create a distro that would be easy for people to
easy
install.
for people to learn from. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
decided that, this is how I'm gonna do it. And if people like it,
They like it.
yeah, they like it. And
Yeah.
so I don't want them to get all confused and thrown off and be like, okay, I'm going back to Windows or I'm going back to Mac, because
Mm-hmm.
in
Right.
my eye, a lot of these other distros would that are based on Arch, they present too many options to the user, they present too many things that they don't want to throw it that I don't want to see people thrown into the gutter with.
Right.
So that's why I created StormOS, to give people an alternative to all these full of stuff distros. And hopefully, it continues down that same trajectory. So,
Yeah. So what's your future Linux view in that regard?
well, my future of Linux, well, I'm hoping to continue with StormOS and making it, the same philosophy. You know, people seem to like it, and I'm hoping to continue to improve it and keep it going. So, yeah. And I don't know what its future holds, but hopefully it keeps going. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, where it's going to go, but hopefully it goes positive and people continue to use it and enjoy it. And we have gotten a little bit of flack, but I mean, nobody's perfect, and
Yeah,
it's just
it's
Storm
true.
OS is what it is, and that's never going to change.
Yeah, that's good. So, how long does it take you to create a distro, ISO for distro?
Well, as I said, we have two ISOs, and that varies on the machine. We build currently on a dual core with 4 threads, or dual core 2 threads, I should say. So we've it's got 6 gigs of RAM. It's not a very
Powerful machine.
beefy machine, so it's kind of low end, and we go as fast as we can. And the more we add to it, the more time it adds, and we don't want to put too much in there that bloats the ISO and makes the machine bog down to a crawl.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to keep it on the smaller side for that of many reasons, and we
Yeah.
want to make it a good a system as we can. But I mean, the truth of the matter is that it's not a very beefy build machine, so we try not to reinstall the build machine all that much.
Mm-hmm.
So it does take a good bit of time to build the system, to be honest.
Right.
So it takes a good chunk of time. So yeah.
Okay, without getting too technical, what are the steps basically to build an ISO?
Well, okay, to dabble more in that, um, we're using a fork of a fork of uh we're using uh Zero Linux's build script. All I did was add 2 options to it, one for StormOS KDE and one for XFCE, because
Mm-hmm.
by default those are not in his script. So we're basically forking his script and just using it to build from.
Okay.
And
So
so
basically, you have
yeah,
a
we're
directory
using
set
Zero
up in there
Linux's
with
script.
the whole distro in there.
Sorry?
You say basically have a directory with all
No,
the
what
distro
we
in there.
did was we edited the I went into the script and a couple of the options things, etc., in there, and added StormOS, KDE, and I made a folder containing, or I forked his KDE folder and put my XFCE scripts in there, and KDE, and I put all my stuff in there, and then I ran the script, and it um, automates all the stuff that I was doing manually. So it's a very automated way of building Arch ISOs, pretty much. So
Yeah,
that's sort of
so
a little intro into what I'm doing.
that's
Steve, to
interesting.
answer that, that's Zero Linux. I'm using a fork of his script, pretty much. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you
yeah. So I'm using a custom thing of
script.
his script that I have forked. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very easy. It's three little prompts that you go through, three and a half roughly. And so it's not very hard at all. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
back in the day when I was in the 80s when I was working for a gas measurement company,
Yeah.
I did something similar where they had all these programs they ran, this data you input in to create gas measurement.
Yeah.
And so I automated it with a script in digital basic.
Oh wow.
So so you just run it and it runs and goes through all the programs, puts the data in as it goes and automated pretty much. So something similar to that, I guess, huh?
Yeah, some similar to that, pretty much. If you want to see it in action, I recommend going to Zero's channel and looking that up and seeing how it runs, and you'll kind of get an idea for what I'm doing. So
Alrighty.
yeah,
That's cool.
and his channel name was just Zero Linux. If you, all in word, if you want to look him up, I'm good buddies with him, and he's I highly recommend looking at his channel for some good Arch Linux content. So,
Great. So, do you have any projects you're working on?
uh, other than other than you know,
Storm.
other than Storm, nothing really. I mean, I'm just I might dabble in something with Gentoo, but I don't know yet. I'm trying to keep as much weight off my hands as I can.
Right. You have a life too, don't you?
Yeah,
What-
I'm still working in college, trying to, get my degrees and things like that.
Yeah, what are you
So I
majoring
don't,
in?
so that way I can get, a job of some kind. I don't want to put too much pressure on me and that sort of thing. So
Right. College is already intense enough half time.
yeah, yeah, and I'm 50% of the way through. I'm having to work on, networking and security towards my degree, and I just
Hmm.
want to uh, don't want to lose my focus on that while building Storm OS. So I can't put myself under too much at one
Yeah.
time. So
Howdy, Steve. I see you're on the feed there.
on the YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Steve. Welcome to another friend of ours. All
Yeah. He's been a good
right.
friend.
But yeah, I just, like I said, if I put myself under another distro endeavor right now, it's going to be a lot at one developer's plate. I can't put myself
Right.
under too much pressure of too
Yeah.
many projects at the same
I
time.
certainly understand that. I probably
Yeah,
got to
I
be myself
mean,
when I'm retired.
calling myself a true developer right now, I don't want to do that. I'm a tinkerer and I like to build stuff, but putting myself under too many distros under my name it's just too much.
Right.
It's too much to build too many systems for people at the same time. Just
Right.
oh, I can
Yeah.
only do one at a time, I
Yeah,
think.
that's what I was wondering. But I thought you were dev for Gecko and Spiral. I was
No, no, no,
wondering.
I'm not doing.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not doing
thought,
more
how's
than
this guy
one
doing all these
solution.
distros and all these ISOs? So,
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
and going to college at the same time.
I can't do that. No.
Yeah, that's good
But
to know.
yeah, it's a lot to think about, putting in three different ISOs. That's a bit much. So, plus,
Yeah,
I've got friends that I hang out with sometimes, and just all this stuff. I mean, I can't be asked, being doing dev work at the same time. It's just,
yeah,
and plus I've got, other things I do on a daily basis, like gaming and, things like, you know, sometimes I like to go out and be with my family, etc. We all have different little things that we like to do on
right.
our spare time that, life just gets in the way. And,
Yeah, it does.
I can't be on my computer 24/7.
Yeah, I was wondering when you slept and that kind of thing.
Uh, Yeah, I get that. I mean, I can't be on the computer, during the wee hours of the night. That's kind
Right.
of insanity.
Although it seems like half the time when I text you or send you a
A
telegram or something,
message,
it seems like
I'm
you're
asleep.
on.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't mind talking to people, but when I'm sleeping, that's not
Right,
the time to be doing it.
right.
And again, we are
Well, it's
on
good to
two
know you're
opposite
getting your
sides of
sleep
the.
in. That's important to do.
Yes, and that's kind of why, it's hard for people on the West Coast to sort of get a hold of me because sometimes when they try and hit me up. I'm like, I'm asleep.
He actually sleeps. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. Do you have any, aside from Storm S, which I have down in the show notes, is there any other links or information you wanted to give out to anybody?
Well, I don't normally give out like my Facebook or my Discord because, or even my email, because I don't want to get hounded with support questions or
Right.
things that I'm not, wanting to touch on actively because, I'm just one guy. Like I said, I don't have all the answers that the Arch Wiki has or things
Mm-hmm.
online. So I would normally, give out that kind of stuff. But if you want to get a hold of me, just, I guess we can give them my email. But I do ask that, you don't spam me with questions and that sort of thing. So I'll give that to you privately after the show. So,
Alrighty.
yeah.
Sounds fair. And we can talk about that more after the show.
All right. Sounds good.
So,
Well,
Steve, do you have any questions for him before we end this thing?
yeah. I don't know if Steve has any questions, but if he does, go ahead and put it in. And if not, we'll call it here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Because I know Steve's still watching, I think. So,
We've only been on for 35 minutes.
yeah,
So,
we've been going for a good while. So,
yeah.
how long did you say we've been rolling for?
Well, maximum of 2 hours, but usually I shoot for around 1 hour for these interviews.
Well, that's good. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't know if Steve has anything he wants to discuss, but if he does, he's willing to do that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I'm just stealing
He's
your chat
just
to test
stealing
my
you chat
OBS.
to test. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
You
Well,
stealing? Oh,
if
yeah.
nothing else, I think we've covered everything that I can say.
Yeah, I can tell Steve that because he wasn't on here earlier, but I have the transparency. I try to put transparency on the background, but it didn't work. He's apparently, and also I had the chat box on the computer, and I didn't realize I didn't have it on this computer until about 5 minutes before we started. So that's why the big blank spot on the right is. It's supposed to be a chat box there, but I forgot to get it together. So I got OBS issues too, but at least we're functional. At least we're broadcasting.
Well, at least we're getting it done.
Yeah,
That's the important thing.
and
But
I
yeah,
also got my Steve
I
cup
think we've
here.
covered everything about me that I can tell you.
Yeah, should I
And
have asked the final question like, "What's the one question you wish I would have asked that I didn't?" or something like that.
what's that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
That's,
I don't think that I can really come up with one personally. I mean,
yeah,
you've asked me everything that you know you said in the list, so I think we've covered pretty much everything that I can tell you about me.
right.
So I don't think there's anything that you could have asked me that I would have told you.
Yeah. I'm not sure who we're doing next week. I may actually get Nathan to see if he's willing to jump in and interview me or something
Uh,
like that.
yeah. Well, I'll get that email to you in a chat message. I have to go take the groceries in right now. Hold on.
Alrighty.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, it was good to talk to you, Rick. Thanks.